national general strike in Belgium disrupted transport and public services across the country on Tuesday. France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu proposed the suspension of a contested pension plan in a move to avoid his minority government from toppling. Marking his first state visit, Pope Leo XIV met with Italian President Sergio Mattarella in Rome. A national general strike in Belgium disrupted transport and public services across the country on Tuesday. The strike is led by the country's main trade unions in opposition to the planned budget cuts by Flemish nationalist Bart de Wever's coalition government. Disruptions to public services such as rubbish collection were announced ahead of the strike. Strikes were also taking place in all Belgian prisons. All departing flights were grounded at both Brussels and Charleroi Airport, while all arriving flights at Charleroi were cancelled or diverted. The majority of metro, bus and tram lines were also not running in Brussels as a protest march moved through the capital. Several protesters were arrested after some started small fires near the Brussels Ring Road and others clashed with local authorities. The protests are expected to ramp up pressure on De Wever's coalition government, which on Monday failed to reach a budget agreement. A vote over Israel's participation in Eurovision has been pushed back. The organizers of the song contest, the European Broadcasting Union, had initially planned the vote for next month after several countries threatened to boycott the event if Israel's entry was upheld. Spain, the Netherlands, Ireland, Iceland and Slovenia all stated they would withdraw if Israel was allowed to participate. In response, Germany said it could do so if Eurovision decided to exclude Israel. However, now, following the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, the EBU announced the vote will take place in December. No specific date has been scheduled for a final decision, but it's reported that discussions are set to resume once it becomes clearer if the ceasefire will hold. Austria, which is due to host the 2026 contest after its win last year, has praised the delaying of the poll.
French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu is walking a political tightrope this week. Just as a reminder, he had resigned just a few weeks after taking office and then was immediately reappointed on Friday night by French President Emmanuel Macron in a shocking and frankly puzzling move. But now, with his new government hanging by a thread, Lecornu decided on a bold move. He announced the suspension of the controversial 2023 pension reform to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. Speaking at the National Assembly this Tuesday afternoon, Lecornu said that the pension law, a flagship policy of Emmanuel Macron, will be put on hold until after the 2027 presidential election. But the political stakes remain high. With no clear majority, the government faces two no-confidence motions on Thursday, one filed by the far right and another filed by the hard left with support from the Green Party. Only the socialists hold the balance of power. And according to our sources, they say that they're willing to give Lecornu a second chance. The next 48 hours will be critical as France watches whether the new Prime Minister, Macron's fourth in under 1 year, will survive this major parliamentary test.
Marking his first state visit, Pope Leo XIV met with Italian President Sergio Mattarella at the Quirinale Palace in Rome on Tuesday. The pontiff reaffirmed his commitment to continue working to restore peace in every part of the world and reiterated the close bond between the Holy See and the Italian people.
Come Vescovo di Roma e Primati d'Italia, per me è significativo rinnovare con questa visita il forte legame che unisce la sede di Pietro al popolo italiano, che lei rappresenta, nel quadro dei cordiali rapporti bilaterali che intercorrono tra l'Italia e la Santa Sede. stabilmente improntati a sincera amicizia.
During his speech at the palace, the Pope also highlighted the importance of respect for and protection of all forms of life. Meanwhile, speaking on global issues, President Mattarella stressed the necessity of a two-state solution for Palestine and Israel, a position strongly supported by Pope Leo XIV. Mattarella also urged an end to the war in Ukraine, where 4 years later, Russian aggression continues to take a toll on civilian lives.
Russian forces launched a barrage of strikes against Kharkiv overnight into Tuesday, hitting a hospital and wounding 7 people. The attack on Ukraine's second largest city forced the evacuation of 50 patients from the primary healthcare facility. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the main targets were energy facilities and again urged foreign partners to provide more air defense systems. This call comes as a new report on Tuesday revealed a sharp drop in European military support for Kyiv. According to the Kiel Institute, foreign military aid fell by 43% compared to the first half of the year. That fall occurred after the creation of a new NATO fund that pools contributions to purchase US-made weapons for Ukraine.
Ukraine faces a challenging winter ahead as Russia ramps up attacks on its energy infrastructure. Odile Renaud-Basso, the president of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, has told Euronews. The bank is Ukraine's largest institutional investor, deploying more than 8 billion euros in investments since the start of the war, including in the banking, energy and agri-food sectors. Her warning came days after Russian strikes knocked out more than half of Ukraine's gas production, and hours after what Ukrainian officials described as a massive attack on Ukrainian energy infrastructure, plunging parts of the capital Kyiv into darkness.
Few days ago, there have been the largest attack on gas infrastructure, and this creates new challenge. So that's why we need to be, as an institution, as a bank, and with the countries that support Ukraine, need to be very agile in defining the response and providing support depending on the priorities. And for example, now we've been working in the last few months and still now with Naftogaz, which is a gas company, in order to ensure that Ukraine has sufficient gas storage to cover for the winter. The country was very well prepared a few days ago. The new attack creates new challenge, so it's important to continue to strengthen and to be ready.
Renaud-Basso also said that the bank is committed to Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction efforts, but that any settlements between Ukraine and Russia must ensure an enduring peace.
You remember that Ukraine was in a war since 2014, and this is not very conducive for investment and development. It was so. Hopefully this will be the situation. Then we will step up our investment, and I think our plan is to invest at least 3 billion euros per year.
Odile Renaud-Basso, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
The European Commission and Frontex are hosting a Libyan delegation for technical meetings on migration management. The meetings involved representatives from both eastern and western Libya. Although the government and military of eastern Libya are not internationally recognized, the European Commission has regularly engaged with them at the technical levels for years. The discussions aim to explore ways to curb irregular migration. Departures from eastern Libya rose by 280% in September compared with the previous year. This makes that region of Libya increasingly important for the EU, whose member states are also seeking to open a political dialogue. However, the head of Eastern Libya Army, Khalifa Haftar, is an ally of Russia, a relationship that complicates any dialogue between Tobruk and Brussels. Unlike the European Commission, for Frontex, this was the first meeting with any Libya officials in years, and likely the first time it has had contact with representatives from eastern Libya. Human rights organizations have consistently condemned the abuses committed by any authorities in Libya towards migrants reaching European shores.
During our R&D process, we have made 200 of this and conducted more than 5,000 safety testing flights in extreme heat, high altitude, extreme cold, moisture areas, so it actually can handle all the situations.
المجال الجوي نحن نتخيله مثل الشوارع اليوم، لازم نسوي له نفس الشوارع، ونسوي مثلا حق كل طياره مسار وحق كل مشروع مسار خاص فيه عشان ننظم هاي العمليات هاي، لان اليوم كل العمليات اليوم تتنظم اصلا اوريدي موجوده عندنا تطبيقات تنظم العمليات هاي. كل العمليات اليوم في دبي نحن نراقبها عن طريق التطبيقات اللي عندنا موجوده في هيئه دبي للطيران المدني، والتوجيهات اللي عندنا اللي موجوده طبعا مع المستندات.